Here's a psychology fact you're not ready for. The people who don't use social media are often more emotionally stable than the ones who can't stay off it. If you instantly felt defensive hearing that, this is going to hit deeper than you expect. Psychologists call this external validation dependency. And once you understand it, you'll start seeing why your confidence rises and falls with notifications, why your mood shifts after scrolling, why your energy drains without you knowing why. Your relationships, your focus, your self-esteem, all of it is influenced by this one psychological pattern. Now think about the people who don't use social media. No Instagram stories, no Snapchat streaks, no Twitter debates, no constant digital presence. Most people assume they're antisocial, awkward, out of touch. But that assumption says more about us than it does about them. Because here's where it gets uncomfortable. Most people don't open social media because they're bored. They open it because silence feels heavy. Because being alone with your own thoughts feels unfamiliar. Because distraction is easier than self-awareness. Every scroll is relief. Relief from thinking. Relief from insecurity. Relief from comparing yourself to where you should be. And here's the painful truth. Your brain loves that relief. Social media runs on dopamine loops. Every like is a tiny reward. Every notification is anticipation. Every scroll is a slot machine pull. You don't even realize it's happening. Your brain starts outsourcing self-worth. Instead of asking, do I respect myself? It starts asking, did they respond? Instead of building confidence internally, it begins renting it from other people. Now imagine someone who doesn't participate in that system at all. No constant feedback. No instant approval. No digital applause. What happens to their psychology? They're forced to build identity offline. And that changes everything. But here's the part nobody wants to admit. People who don't use social media are often more comfortable being unseen. And that is rare. We live in a culture that equates visibility with value. If it's not posted, did it even happen? If it's not liked, was it even good? If no one comments, does it even matter? But people who step away from social media slowly detach from that equation. Their brain stops associating attention with worth. Instead, it starts associating effort with worth, skill with worth, growth with worth. That's a completely different psychological foundation. This happens because your brain adapts to whatever environment you repeatedly feed it. If you feed it comparison, it becomes insecure. If you feed it constant stimulation, it loses patience. If you feed it validation, it becomes dependent. But if you feed it solitude, it becomes self-aware. If you feed it boredom, it becomes creative. If you feed it real-life interaction, it becomes socially grounded instead of socially curated. Your mind thinks social media makes you connected, but the reality is, it often makes you perform connection. There's a difference between being known and being seen. Most social media interaction is performance, carefully chosen angles, carefully edited captions, carefully filtered lives, and your brain compares your unfiltered life to someone else's highlight reel. That comparison quietly lowers your baseline satisfaction. You may not feel it consciously, but over time it chips away at your contentment. Meanwhile, someone who doesn't engage in that comparison cycle, their baseline stabilizes. They're not constantly measuring themselves against 1,000 other lives. They're measuring themselves against yesterday. And that is psychologically powerful. But let's go deeper. There's another trait common among people who avoid social media. Delayed gratification. When you're not constantly checking your phone, you're training your brain to tolerate discomfort. No instant entertainment. No instant response. No instant stimulation. And tolerance for discomfort is directly tied to resilience. That's why many people who stay off social media often seem calmer, more patient, more present. They're not fractured into 50 micro-attention pieces. Their attention belongs to them. Now here's the wake-up slap. If you can't sit alone in a room for 20 minutes without grabbing your phone, that's not preference. That's conditioning. And conditioning can be reversed. If that hit you, good. It means you're aware. And awareness is step one. Because this isn't about demonizing social media. It's about understanding what it's doing to your psychology. When your brain gets used to constant external input, it weakens internal dialogue. When it gets used to constant validation, it weakens intrinsic confidence. And when it gets used to constant comparison, it weakens gratitude. But here's the empowering part. You don't have to delete everything tomorrow. You don't have to disappear. You just need to interrupt the loop. If you want to break this cycle, start with controlled absence. One intentional block of time every day with zero scrolling. No, just checking. No background browsing. Replace that space with something that builds instead of consumes. Read 10 pages. Write 1 page. Have one real conversation, sit in silence. It will feel uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is your dopamine system recalibrating. Stay with it. And here's the mental trick that actually works. Before you open any app, ask yourself, am I going there to create or to escape? If the honest answer is escape, pause. That pause builds power. Because the people who don't use social media aren't superhuman. They've just reduced the noise. And when you reduce the noise, you hear yourself more clearly. And when you hear yourself more clearly, you move differently. Less reactive. Less insecure. Less addicted to being watched. More grounded. More intentional. More free. The real psychology of people who don't use social media isn't that they hate technology. It's that they protect their attention. And in a world fighting for your attention every second, that might be the strongest move of all.